Chapter 1: The Beginning of Discovery. A genetic research team at a prestigious university in London has been busy analyzing ancient Sumerian scriptures. The leader of the team, Dr. Amelia Carter, was investigating the secrets of Enki, the god mentioned in ancient Sumerian tablets. After years of research, Carter's team had found important clues about Enki's role in human history. Other members of the team included genetic engineer Dr. Hughes, linguist Dr. Natalie Brown, and historian Dr. Ethan Walker. One morning, as Dr. Carter and his team were working on a tablet thought to be from the Sumerian god Enki, they noticed a never-before-seen sequence of symbols on the tablet. These symbols resembled modern DNA sequences. Dr. Hughes decided to analyze the symbols and discovered that they contained data on the human genome. Dr. Carter leaned toward Hughes and said, "This is incredible. If this is true, Enki could be one of the greatest genetic engineers in human history," he said excitedly. "These look like genetic codes, but written in an ancient language. A kind of biological encryption," Dr. Hughes replied. Back in the lab, Dr. Carter and his team set out to dig deeper into their findings. The sequence of symbols on the tablet suggested that Enki had interfered with human DNA using genetic engineering. Dr. Carter said, "This is incredible. If this is true, Enki could be the creator of humanity," Dr. Carter said excitedly. Dr. Hughes said, "This information is very similar to modern genetic engineering techniques. If true, we can say that Enki manipulated human DNA using advanced technology," Dr. Hughes added. "We've discussed before that the gods of Sumerian mythology may actually be alien scientists, and this could confirm our theory," Dr. Brown summarized. The team wanted to gather more evidence before sharing their findings with the world. Therefore, they requested more tablets from the Museum of London. The museum director showed great interest in Dr. Carter and his team's findings, and offered them other previously undeciphered Sumerian tablets stored in the museum archives. The team traveled to the Museum of London to share these new findings. The museum director showed great interest in the findings of Dr. Carter and his team. After detailed research in the museum archives, other tablets of Enki had been found. These tablets had never been deciphered before. Dr. Walker said, "These new tablets from the museum archives could further clarify Enki's ties to humanity. We need to study them all in detail," Dr. Walker said. The team began analyzing the new tablets and uncovered more genetic information about Enki's creation of humanity. This information was the basis for modern genetic engineering techniques. Dr. Carter said, "This legacy left by Enki could change everything we know about the origins of humanity. We can use this information to protect the future of humanity," Dr. Carter reasoned. Dr. Carter and his team returned to the lab to examine the new tablets. Dr. Hughes was using genetic sequencing software to decipher the symbols on the tablets. "These symbols really do look like DNA sequences. It could be an ancient genetic coding system," Dr. Hughes said. Before we continue with our video, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and support us. Thanks. Dr. Brown was studying the linguistic structure of the symbols on the tablets. "These symbols look like an advanced form of Sumerian. However, the language used here is much more complex than we know," Dr. Brown said. Dr. Walker was investigating the historical context of the tablets. These tablets could be describing Enki's influence on humanity. If true, these findings could completely change human history, he added. While analyzing this new information, the team deciphered a message on the tablets. The message described Enki's process of creating humanity and how he altered human DNA using genetic engineering. Dr. Carter said, "This message describes how Enki created and preserved humanity. This information is revolutionary for modern science," Dr. Carter said. Dr. Hughes said, "This information could usher in a new era of genetic engineering. Using Enki's technology, we can protect humanity and shape our future," Dr. Hughes added. "These findings show that Sumerian mythology may in fact be real and that the gods were alien scientists," said Dr. Brown. "The team is preparing to share their findings with the world, but they also had to consider the implications and possible consequences of this information for humanity." Dr. Carter said, This information could be a big step forward for humanity. But we have to use it properly and put it to the benefit of humanity, Dr. Carter said. Chapter 2. Enki's Message. Dr. Carter and his team continued to study Enki's genetic messages in more detail. Deciphering the symbols on the tablets was more complicated than they thought. However, each symbol to be deciphered provided more insight into Enki's influence on humanity. Dr. Hughes compared the symbols with modern genetic codes and found important similarities. Amelia, some of these symbols are consistent with modern genetic engineering techniques. In particular, it looks like CRISPR-like editing methods were used, Dr. Hughes said. This means that Enki was actively modifying human DNA. He may have intervened in the evolution of humanity, Dr. Carter replied. This could explain why certain genetic traits have emerged throughout human history. The team organized a presentation at the Museum of London to share their findings with the wider scientific community. In the presentation, Dr. Carter and his team explained how Enki used genetic engineering to shape and preserve humanity. The presentation was attended by scientists and historians from around the world. Dr. Carter said, "The knowledge of the Sumerian god Enki in the field of genetic engineering is so important that human history needs to be rewritten. These tablets contain detailed descriptions of Enki's interventions in human DNA," Dr. Carter began. "The gods of Sumerian mythology may actually be alien scientists. These tablets prove Enki's impact on humanity and his legacy to us," Dr. Brown added. The presentation attracted a great deal of attention and caused a stir in the scientific community. However, some scientists and historians were skeptical of the findings. Some questioned their impact on human history, while others questioned their reliability. After the presentation, Dr. Carter and his team returned to their laboratory. Dr. Hughes was analyzing the genetic codes on the tablets in more detail. These codes show specific genetic sequences inserted into modern human DNA. Enki may have intervened in the evolutionary processes of humanity, he said. Dr. Brown was examining how the mythological stories on the tablets corresponded with real scientific events. These tablets show that Enki used genetic engineering to alter human DNA and how these changes are described in mythological stories, he said. This information may prove that Sumerian mythology was based on real events and that the gods were actually aliens with advanced technology, Dr. Walker added. Dr. Carter and his team held a meeting on the university campus. At the meeting, they discussed the possible impact of Enki's legacy on humanity and how it could be used in the future. Dr. Carter said, "This knowledge has great potential for the future of humanity. By using Enki's genetic engineering knowledge, we can cure diseases and extend human lifespan. But we must use this information carefully," Dr. Carter said. Dr. Hughes said, "Yes, this knowledge has great power, but we should be concerned that this power is being used in the wrong hands. To properly use Enki's legacy, we must protect this knowledge and ensure that it is used only for the benefit of humanity," Dr. Hughes added. Dr. Brown said, "This information is important enough to rewrite human history. Enki's legacy could change everything we know about the origins of humanity," Dr. Brown said. Dr. Carter and his team returned to the Museum of London. The curator suggested organizing an exhibition to showcase the findings and share them publicly. Dr. Carter and his team decided that this exhibition was an important opportunity to introduce Enki's legacy to the world. Dr. Carter said, "This exhibition is an opportunity to rewrite human history. We can show the world Enki's knowledge of genetic engineering and its impact on humanity," Dr. Carter said. "This exhibition is an important step in preserving Enki's legacy and passing it on to future generations. By using this knowledge properly, we can shape the future of humanity," Dr. Hughes added. Dr. Brown said, "This exhibition could be one of the greatest discoveries in human history. It is a great opportunity to introduce Enki's legacy to the world," said Dr. Brown. Preparations for the exhibition have begun, and Dr. Carter and his team have worked diligently to showcase Enki's knowledge of genetic engineering and its impact on humanity. The exhibition would be an important step in introducing Enki's great legacy to the world.